A shadow economy of direct-to-consumer AI therapists has rapidly scaled up. Software products with no clinical oversight are diagnosing, counseling, and triaging vulnerable users. On May 19th, the California Senate responded. They passed Senate Bill 903, the Wellness and Oversight for Psychological Resources Act, by a vote of 39-0. The legislation points directly at 5 specific direct-to-consumer AI therapy products, establishing a hard barrier against unlicensed code performing clinical psychology. The core architecture of the bill is correct. It mandates strict disclosure, explicit patient consent, and firm human-in-the-loop oversight. 4 heavyweight professional organizations, including the California Psychological Association and the National Union of Healthcare Workers, co-sponsored the bill. These are institutional practitioners acting on what they see happening inside their own clinics. That bipartisan unanimity and heavy institutional backing indicates the core structure of the bill has significant political momentum as it enters the Assembly. But the drafting details contain a mechanical paradox. Section 4989.82 explicitly defines and permits the use of supplementary support AI tools. These are systems like clinical AI scribes that enhance a licensed professional's capacity while the human retains full responsibility for the care. 2 sections later, Section 4989.84 strictly prohibits those exact same AI tools from detecting emotions or mental states. This prohibition lacks any carve-out for FDA guidance-compliant software. It includes no exception for internal clinical decision support tools used strictly by a licensed provider. A clinical AI scribe summarizing a session where the patient expressed frustration is legally permitted as supplementary support, but the mathematical inference the AI uses to identify that frustration is legally banned. Sacramento has drafted a contradiction. The text simultaneously authorizes the clinical tool and outlaws the foundational technology required to operate it. Emotion detection cannot simply be toggled off. A transformer model processing the sentence, "Client described frustration with workplace conflict," must represent emotional content deep within its attention layers. Outlying emotion representation effectively outlaws the language model entirely. The exact same problem breaks voice transcription. An audio waveform separating into raw text on one side and prosody on the other requires emotional encoding. Stripping prosody away to comply with the ban destroys transcription accuracy. There is a vast technical difference between an AI model natively representing affect to compute language versus an AI generating a psychiatric diagnosis to a consumer as a final output. California is attempting to legislate the technically impossible, mandating semantic comprehension while banning the contextual emotional data that makes it work. The bill's exemptions create a second structural failure. Highly regulated FDA-pathway clinical tools hit a hard blockade because they require emotion detection. Meanwhile, unregulated direct-to-consumer chatbots smoothly bypass oversight simply by rebranding as a peer coach. The irony is sharp. The state of California funded the Trevor Project to build an AI crisis simulator to train humans. That simulator works by having the AI persona detect the trainee's emotional handling and react in character. The current draft catches FDA-compliant clinical tools in an impossible technical ban, while leaving a wide-open backdoor for the unregulated consumer chatbots. While California wrestles with contradictory definitions, other states are quietly passing entirely different AI policy frameworks. Vermont has passed H.814. It enforces a strict mandate requiring fresh, explicit written consent before companies can sell or use identifiable mental health transcripts. Rhode Island Senate passed S.2195. It implements a novel UI requirement, consumer-facing disclosures specifically warning users about AI chatbot sycophancy, the tendency of models to flatter users and validate dangerous behavior. But the theoretical debates in state houses contrast sharply with the functional reality happening at the federal institutional level. After an overwhelmingly positive pilot program, the Department of Veterans Affairs is aggressively rolling out ambient AI scribes to every medical center in the country through 2026. The ambient system captures raw, highly emotional human conversations in the examination room, crystallizing them into clean, structured clinical data points. The VA's architectural philosophy is explicit. The AI lifts the heavy administrative scaffolding off the clinician so the doctor can close their laptop and remain fully present with the veteran. By successfully scaling this across its massive network, the VA establishes the definitive federal procurement standard for human-in-the-loop clinical AI. Operators are forced to navigate two separate realities. They must thread a fractured, contradictory multi-state compliance patchwork while simultaneously building tools capable of meeting the VA's highly functional federal procurement standard. SB 903 is sitting in the California Assembly. The Rules Committee assigns it next. The amendment window is fully open, meaning these fatal flaws can still be corrected. Two surgical red-line edits will save the bill. First, strike the ban on detecting emotions or mental states. Replace it with a precise policy target. AI shall not generate explicit psychometric assessments, scored mental state determinations, or clinical diagnoses presented to a client as a finding. This edit works because it heavily regulates the dangerous output, the actual clinical claim, without outlining the underlying mathematical inference the models require to function. Second, tighten the peer support exemption. Mandate that peer support can only be provided by a human individual. These two specific edits close the loophole that allows DTC chatbots to escape, while fully preserving the FDA-pathway clinical tools that California's healthcare system needs. California is entirely right to establish oversight in an unregulated AI therapy market. The diagnosis of the problem is accurate, but the state cannot allow a rush to regulate to accidentally strangle the clinical tools required to actually fight the mental health crisis. The bill sits at the Assembly desk, pending committee assignment. The window for these specific amendments is open now, but it closes once the bill moves to the governor's desk. As the most aggressive license-side regulation proposed by any state, California's choice to either fix these contradictions or pass them into law will set a high-stakes precedent for how other legislatures approach clinical AI.